If you want to be a pet owner, be responsible.
So in our country, the most common animals involved are dogs.
It is a financial responsibility, so do make sure that you can invest the time, resources, and finances into your companion animal before adopting.
They say that owning a pet, you own a pet and a best friend for life. That is actually true. Dogs, cats, and pets in general keep us company. They boost our mood and help reduce stress and anxiety. They do so much for us, so it's only right that we provide them with the care that they need, from grooming to proper nutrition. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez. Join us as we learn helpful tips in caring for our pets. Welcome to MedTalk Health Talk. Being a responsible pet owner entails a lot of things. Now, to talk more about that, we have with us Ashley Fruno, who is not just a pet lover and animal advocate, but she's also the director for People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, or PETA. Hello, Ashley, and welcome to the show. I see you also have Ella here, who is nice and behaved.
Yes, thank you so much for having us on the show today.
Now, talk to us, Ashley, about having Ella with you. How long have you had her? Is it easy owning a pet for you?
Well, Ella is actually adopted, so she was rescued from the streets of Pasig, and she was suffering from a common type of canine cancer called TVT. So when we rescued her, we gave her all of the needed medical treatment that she needed, and I'm proud to say that she is now living her best life. So Ella is around 7 to 8 years old, even though I've only had her for about a year, and I can say that every single day she is the best part of my day. So although having a pet or having a cat and dog is not necessarily easy, there are a lot of responsibilities to take care of. It is definitely worth all of the sacrifices. It's definitely worth all of the time that you put into them.
Okay, that's good to know, because a lot of people might think that owning a pet is really easy, but it does entail a lot of responsibility and sacrifice for that matter. Now let's talk about the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, or PETA. Here in the Philippines, what are some of the programs that PETA has for dogs like Ella, or cats for that matter, or any other activities that PETA might have?
So PETA's animal assistance programs work to help cat and dog guardians who may not have the resources to care for them, so our indigent communities. So we offer free spay and neuter or capone ligation to hundreds of indigent pet owners every single month. We also provide vet care in times of crisis when people cannot afford it, and we also work through rescue and adoption. So we promote the adoption of our native cats and dogs, so Aspins or Asong Pinoy like Ella here.
That's all and good. And do you also provide education for those as well who might have some hesitations of owning a pet because they just don't have that much information about them?
One thing that we can suggest is anybody who's not sure if they're ready to have a cat or dog in their home but is open to the idea is to foster an animal first. So we actually have a foster program where people can take a cat or dog from us for a period of 6 to 8 weeks and then have them in their homes, give the animals a temporary respite from a shelter environment, but then also see if that cat or a dog is the right fit for them to adopt permanently.
That's actually a pretty good program, sort of like a trial period, and see if having or owning a pet is fit for you. How can they get in touch with you with this program? How can they get more information?
We're on Facebook and Instagram. Our Facebook and profile name is Ampon Alaga. So they can just shoot us a message there and we'll be glad to have their support and hopefully talk more about having a cat or a dog in their home.
That's great to have those programs. But before I let you go, Ashley, do you have any tips, any advice for our viewers, especially those who are thinking of adopting a pet for the first time?
I think it's really important to make sure that you have the time and the resources. So time is a big factor in having a cat or a dog in your home, as well as, of course, love in your heart. But it is a financial responsibility, so do make sure that you can invest the time, resources, and finances into your companion animal before adopting. However, adoption is the right choice. We always make sure that we match the right cat or dog with the right family. We want it to work out long term, and the love that they give you because they're so thankful for rescuing them is just so worth it.
So thank you for being on the show, Ashley Fruno, and thank you to Ella, and thank you for all the activities that you do for PETA as well.
Thank you.
Actually, there are studies that suggest that pets really do wonders for us. Now, to tell us more about this, please welcome on the show Dr. Sixto Carlos, veterinarian and chief pet happiness expert of Makati Dog and Cat Hospital. Now, let's talk about what are some of the benefits of owning a pet, responsibly owning a pet.
Well, for one, it keeps people from getting lonely. Studies have shown that it's good for mental health. And if you have kids, it teaches them responsibility.
Now, with any pet, of course, every pet has to be properly groomed. Now, let's talk about that. What does it mean to groom a pet? Does that automatically mean that you have to bring it to a groomer to have all of these done? Or can pet owners actually groom their pet themselves?
Of course, having a groomer is good, it's great, but let's say you have a pet dog, it's best if you brush them every day. It's to remove dirt, parasites from your pet, and it increases the bond between the owner and the pet. And normally with dogs, you have to bathe them at least once a week.
Does that apply for both dogs and cats?
Oh, regarding cats, you don't really need to bathe them unless your veterinarian recommends you to.
Also, for pets that aren't properly groomed, one of the fear here are some of the parasites such as ticks. What are the risks of these parasites on the pet? And meron din mga risk ito para sa pet owner, di ba, Doc?
Okay, when it comes to ticks, garrapata, they transmit a lot of diseases like Rabies, Ehrlichia, etc. And with fleas, they can actually transmit tapeworms. So if your pet has fleas and you accidentally swallow one, you might get tapeworms.
Just as with humans, vaccination is very important for your pets. There can be serious health risks if you don't do so. More on this when we return. Metok Health Talk will be right back. Pets are a valuable part of our lives, but sometimes they can be a little bit playful, maybe even aggressive, and actually cause a bite. And this is where we want to be wary about a disease called rabies. Now, to help us understand more about rabies, we are joined today by Dr. Samina Khan, who is an emergency medicine specialist. Now, let's first establish why rabies is such a concern.
So first of all, rabies exists in the Philippines. So it is endemic in the Philippines. And rabies has a very high mortality rate. Although the case fatality rate of rabies is close to 100%, it is preventable.
Okay, so let's talk about that. So wala pang actually total na lunas for rabies once someone is affected with rabies. So our best fight here is how to prevent it. Let's talk about that because animal bites ang usually cause kung saan nag-uumpisa, paano natatransmit ang rabies sa isang tao. Let's talk about that. What kind of animals do carry rabies? What type of animals should our viewers be concerned about?
The rabies virus actually thrives in the salivary glands of mammals. So in our country, the most common animals involved are dogs, and then other animals that can transmit rabies are cats, monkeys, and also bats.
Let's talk about dog bites. Is there a way to prevent this? Because I'm sure everyone wouldn't want to be bitten by a dog with rabies, but are there any cues? Malalaman ba ng isang tao na baka itong animal na ito ay rabies? May itsura ba ang animal na merong rabies?
For an animal to be infected with rabies, the animal has to have an exposure first. So dapat nakagat siya or nakalmot ng isang rabid animal din. When the animal is exposed and eventually would develop rabies, there is still an incubation period wherein the animal might not be presenting signs and symptoms of rabies. Some animals may present the symptoms sooner than other animals depending on the type of bite that they have as well. The key here is really just to prevent when you get exposed to an animal bite.
Let's talk about what happens now if someone is bitten by a potential, hindi pa alam kung may rabies yung animal or hindi. Pag-usapan muna natin, kagat lang ba, doktora, ang binibigyan ng anti-rabies? Paano naman kung nakalmot lang siya?
You know, our dogs and our cats, they like to lick their paws. And that is a potential source of infection when a patient is scratched lang. So meron pa ring possible source of infection doon sa cat scratch or sa dog scratch. So it is still considered a dog bite.
Now, when it comes to vaccinations, like what we said, it has a high mortality rate, ano? So it's better to be safe and give that vaccination. How often is this? One shot di lang ba to, doktora? Safe na yung tao?
So it is a series of injections. So you have to go back to your LGU or your animal bite center. You'll be given a card, nakalagay doon yung schedule mo, and you have to complete that series of vaccinations for you to be fully protected from the virus.
Is there a time frame naman? Let's say nakagat siya ng aso in a remote area, hindi siya makapunta kagad sa emergency room. What kind of time frame are we looking at para mabigyan ng anti-rabies?
If you're in a remote area and you get bitten by an animal and di mo sure kung rabies siya, first thing you do is you wash the wound. Wash it with soap and water, irrigate it for 10 minutes with running water because that will actually prevent the infiltration of the virus into your system. So parang na-delay mo na siya, or you actually killed the virus already by washing that. But ideally, of course, within 24 hours, you're supposed to seek consult with your doctor or healthcare professional so that you can be advised and ma-assess yung sugat.
Now, is it still important for doctors, ER medicine specialists, to wait for the dog? Titignan muna kung mag-expire ba yung dog, because a dog who has rabies will eventually expire in a few days.
So in practice, we give the vaccination right away. We give the prophylaxis because, like we said, there is no treatment for a full-blown rabies infection. So we really advocate the vaccination regardless of the status of the animal.
Let's talk about wound care. You mentioned it a little bit earlier. A lot of people are so anxious about the rabies, they might forget also proper wound care kasi sugat pa rin yun eh, kesa kalmot or kagat. What are some of the things na wag dapat gawin sa sugat?
This is a very common encounter that we have in the ER. So a lot of patients would get a very shallow scratch from dog bite or cat bite, and then pasok sila sa ER and would say na, "Doc, pinadugo ko na po." So please, that's not something we should do kasi you're actually giving the virus an opportunity to penetrate your system, and eventually it could develop into a full-blown rabies infection.
Huwag paduguin
Yes,
ang
huwag
sugat.
papaduguin.
Okay. Another common question, doktora, is nakompleto na niya, nagawa na niya yung rabies vaccine protocol natin. And then, soon after that, nakagat siya ulit. Panibagong cycle ba tayo ulit?
So as long as you've completed your previous series of anti-rabies vaccination, the next time na makagat ka, you'll be needing a booster dose. So booster na lang ng booster.
And before we go, Doc Sam, do you have any advice, any tips, especially for our viewers who are pet owners, pet lovers?
So of course, we all have to be responsible pet owners, have your fur babies vaccinated, have them groomed. Of course, like I said, their claws can be a source of infection as well. So let's all be responsible pet owners.
And for that, thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Sam, and sharing your expertise. Vaccinating your pet is a great way to practice responsible pet ownership. More tips when we return. MedTalk Health Talk. We'll be right back. Many of us are filled with joy when we come home to our fur companions. And here we are going to give you some practical tips to make them not just you healthy, but your pets as well. So let's please welcome back Dr. Sixto Carlos, veterinarian and chief pet happiness expert of Makati Dog and Cat Hospital. Now, continuing our discussion, Dr. Sixto, let's move now on the health or nutrition of our pets. A lot of pet owners really feel close to their pet. They sleep with them in the same bed, they eat with them on the same dining table, and sometimes even the food that the pet owner eats, they would like their pet to enjoy it as well. Let's talk about some of the maybe risks of this, some of the cons maybe of our pets eating the same food that humans eat.
Okay, the thing about dogs and cats, they have specific needs. For example, in cats, they need taurine and vitamin A. Dogs, you'd be surprised, they don't need vitamin C, so they might get too much of that. And another thing is, you have to remember what you think is a small amount for you may be a big amount for your pet.
If it's not the best situation to really give your pet table food in general, what is the best? Is dog food the only option for our pets for dogs, and is cat food the only option for our cats?
If you don't have that much time, I suggest you just get one of the commercial pet foods, but you have to be sure, okay, give dog food, and give cats cat food. And it depends on the stage of their life. You have to give a special preparation for puppies, for adults, and for seniors. And there's also this special dog food, we call it prescription diets. These are actually medicine specific for certain conditions. You don't just give this to your pets. You need to ask for a veterinary's recommendation and prescription.
What are some of the bad effects that can happen for our pets who eat table food regularly or food that humans consume?
A lot of them are not balanced for them. For example, if you just give meat, it may lack calcium, so later on they have a nutritional imbalance. And let's say for cats are carnivores. So if you keep on giving them starchy food, long-term wise, it's not so good for them.
What is the ideal weight? Because of course for humans there is a healthy weight and whatnot. Does that apply also for dogs and cats?
Yes, we have what we call body scoring, where you're too thin or too big, too heavy, okay? One guide, because the thing about dogs and cats is there's so much variance between breeds. So one guide is you have to be able to touch the ribs. If you can't touch them anymore, they're too heavy.
Now, of course, part of being a responsible pet owner is having their pet spayed or neutered. Let's talk about that. What does it mean for a pet to be spayed or neutered?
Having your pet spayed or neutered, the term is it's desexing. It's to keep them from having babies, because throughout the world, and especially in the Philippines, we just have too much dogs and cats. If you're a responsible pet owner, you should keep your pets from reproducing. And another thing is, statistically, it shows if you have them spayed or neutered, they're healthier and they live longer.
Now let's talk about regular maintenance, regular checkups for pets. How often should pet owners bring their fur babies to a veterinarian?
It depends on their life stage. Of course, if they're younger, like in dogs, maybe you have to bring them at 4 weeks, then every few weeks for vaccinations, for deworming, etc. Once they get older, maybe yearly or every 6 months. Again, it depends on your veterinarian's recommendation.
We definitely learned a lot from you, Dr. Sixto. Do you have any advice, any tips, especially for our pet owners out there, for their fur babies, especially for those first-time pet owners?
To be a pet owner takes a lot of responsibility. You need to like them, you need to love them, and admittedly, you need to have the money to spend for their medicine, food, grooming, shelter. So you have to consider a lot of things. So if you want to be a pet owner, be responsible.
Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your expertise today, Dr. Sixto. Ultimately, our pets keep us happy. So let's provide them with the care they deserve and practice responsible pet ownership. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and thank you for joining us here on Med Talk Health Talk.